Hello, Helen, my homie, my friend. From how long? When did we meet? Like, how long ago was that? It must have been like,
God, I think it's like 3 years
yeah,
ago.
like 4 years ago. Yeah. So,
Yeah, but you feel like a friend for like 10 years,
yeah,
20
I
years.
know. Yeah. So, Helen, thank you for being on this show, on this podcast. I wanna, with you, I want to start this episode, kind of broadly because I know you can you have like so much, and we can go in so many different directions. So, I want to just
Yeah.
kind of throw the ball in your court and ask you, like, what's your story? If
Oh
someone
gosh.
if you're like, if somebody just put you on the spot like I'm putting you right now, and just like, you're like, hey, like, who are you, like, what's your story, like, in like, what would you share with someone?
I think I'm a woman that is discovering like my voice in the world, where like where my talent and my knowledge of experience meet to be able to be of service to people.
Hmm.
Um, and, just like everybody's story, like the journey of your life, of your lineage, of where you're from, your family, understanding that, being like a first generation immigrant, and navigating uncharted territories that your parents never could have ever dreamed or imagined. And so there's this kind of disconnect, where like they grew up in a different life, and then I'm this progressive modern life, and so really kind of embarking on everything that they had hoped for,
Hmm.
um, and then paving the way, for many more women, to be able to do whatever they feel like.
Yeah.
Um,
So I mean, like, and you touched on some amazing things, like finding your voice, building on like what your parents, like, kind of like on the dreams of your parents. Like, what's your background, like your family background, and then maybe like
yeah,
even like what was that dream that they had for you and for, I guess, your siblings and such.
Yeah, so I come from a family of seven, right? So there's my parents and then my siblings. I have four siblings. And so, it was a tribe, right? And we're from Taiwan. And my parents, my father was a very humble, simple man, but with great integrity and great like blessings. Like he was a man of luck. He had like Buddha's ears, literally. Like his earlobe was like the size of Buddha's earlobe.
Wow.
So much so that like people would like reach to his ear to want to rub his ear for good luck. Like we walk places and he's like almost like swatting flies half the time for like, their hands would just start reaching for him. It was really funny. But yeah, I mean, he was a very humble, simple man that worked very hard. And when I say simple, it's like he only graduated till he was in elementary school,
Mm.
but at a very young age, he owned five factories. This is like before Taiwan had open trade with America, in the 70s, before China was open to doing trade in America.
Yeah.
So my father, was part of that rush of manufacturing, if you will. And so they worked with everyone from like Broadway, now I'm like really dating myself, Broadway and all these department stores. And so my dad and his five brothers, he came from a family of 12. Like they ended up having a cashmere factory,
Mm.
and they sold all over United States. And so he became a multi-billion-dollar man, like at a very young age, like I think in his 20s.
Wow.
And then had aspires to come here. And part of the reason why he wanted to migrate was because in Taiwan everybody serves in the army,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody meaning men, and so him having two sons, he didn't want at that time, like he had served in the army, and he was a cook in the army. And so, you know, he didn't want them to have to go through that or and be subject to war, because China was always trying to cause war with Taiwan. So so it was like set sail to America, you know, was really his ambition. And so we immigrated here. Back then, my mom said that the move was probably like a $500,000 move to move all of us here, establish a place, you know, because they had to buy a house, they bought cars, like they bought merchandise to start a business here. And, you know, it was like a really big deal. So that money was kind of a big money in the early eight, no, I was born in 78. So probably like early 80s, you know, we moved to Orange County. And it was kind of like 2 by 2 by 2 came because of the way immigration was and everything. And so, yeah, we were in Orange County in the very early ages.
Yeah. And so like he really wanted to like create like a better life for his sons and for you, obviously, and not have to go through some of the things that he went through, or like risk, you know, your livelihood essentially. And so you came to this country. I didn't realize you were born in Taiwan. That's
I
crazy.
came really young.
Yeah. And so what do you feel like he like his spirit or like his personality or like what aspects of him do you feel like really you inherited?
Oh God, everything.
Yeah.
I'm so much like my father. I'm probably the one that's most like him. Like I'm a very big risk taker. He was very charismatic. People, you know, loved being around him. Like he was a great businessman. You know, and I think a lot of the reason why I've been in business since I was little is really because like I was born into doing business. So my parents basically, they, you know, had a cashmere, my father had a cashmere company. They sold that because China opened trade in the early 80s, and they saw that coming, and they knew China was just going to take over, which they did, right? And so Taiwan could not compete with what China could do. So my parents sold it, and they invested in tons of land all over the world, or all over like United States and Taiwan. And then my father ended up, they ended up starting a antique business here, which turned into a fine jewelry business. So like a lot of my jewelry, like this is vintage ivory. This is what my parents sold. You know, like I wear a lot of like a lot of my trinkets and stuff are all like kind of from my parents and their dealings. And so, and so I grew up doing trade shows. So I've like been working, you know, we would go on vacation, but vacation was like, I get to swim at the pool while they're doing trade shows. But I naturally just kind of like adapted to working. Like I loved talking to people, and people were so intriguing to me. This is actually when I knew I was like, I had some kind of healer, something going on with me, you know, because I'm like 10, 12, and people are telling me about their divorces and their lives, which may sound very inappropriate right now that we're talking about it out loud. But what it was like people entrusted me with their secrets. And I would just listen. I mean, I didn't even like have a response, obviously, because I'm so young. But like I was kind of an old soul, you know, like people be like, oh my God, I feel like your age is beyond your age and all this stuff, right? So by the end of the trade show, I like be friends with everyone. And then because I like would organize people's booths, they would give me all kinds of trinkets. So I had like diamonds and, you know, 14-karat gold at a very young age. I'm like earning stuff without trying to earn stuff, you know? And so business was already very embedded in my language. Like I don't know how else to be, you know? And so then I would go to this thing called school. And school was such a different environment, right?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'm like flying out to Chicago at a trade show with my parents. And then, I started working in trade shows like around like 14, 15. And then I fly home and then I go to school. And I was just like, school is like boring. Like the world is out there, people, so I was already like, my visions were already very outside of the construct of like
That's
schooling.
interesting. So do you feel like school was not, did you get anything out of school?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think friendship building,
Yeah.
continuity,
Mm-hmm.
um, I wouldn't say any of the subjects that we learned I can really apply to anything I was doing.
Yeah.
But I did go to trade school. I ended up going to FIDM, went to FIDM, graduated. It was a 2-year program. I graduated in a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Got my associates. I got a double degree,
What were
there.
your degrees in? What's FITN stand
Product,
for?
Fashion Institute Design and Merchandising.
Okay.
And then I got product development and apparel manufacturing
Got it.
degree.
And so what was your first business then?
My first, what would I go into?
Yeah.
So I was a makeup artist for Estee Lauder, and launched all the Bloomingdale's that opened up. And then I ended up, so I went from doing makeup and I thought, I should really, I should probably be in my business, which is fashion. So I was getting ready to graduate, and then I thought, well, I'm just going to go for the best company that's in LA right now. And at that time, it was BCBG. And so I submitted my resume, and I was in this class called Quality Control. And this professor of mine or instructor of mine always kept like bugging me. He would ask me like, what's my 6-month plan? What's my 1-year plan? And then we would have to get up and like state all this stuff. But I was like, in my head, I was thinking, this is quality control. Why are we talking about our like goals and all this, right? Next thing you know, I get a call. I go on this interview at BCBG. I get a call, and I was like, amazing. I'm 3 hours late because of El Nino. And I was like, are you sure you want to see me? Like, I'm so late. I couldn't find the freeway exit because it was raining so hard. And back then, like now I'm going to really date myself. We had pagers, not phones. So I had to get off. I mean, it's pouring rain at a payphone, calling, I'm late. I can't find the exit. And they're like, just come. I'm like, but I'm 3 hours late, And I show up and they're like, do you want to be in design or production? I was like, am I hired? Teacher, the quality control teacher, was interviewing me in class because he got my resume. He was the president of back then Parallel was a brand. And Parallel, I guess, apparently got my resume because they were all parent companies, BCBG.
Yeah.
But he was president of Parallel, and somehow he got a hold of my resume. So the whole time in class, when I was getting annoyed with him, he was actually interviewing me. So when I showed up, the job was mine. It's just which one did I want?
Nice.
So you really never know, I guess that's one thing I want to tell your listeners. You never know what is happening in the background and who is like watching you and who, what path is already being kind of set out for you.
Yeah.
And so I went straight in. I was an assistant getting paid nothing, I think $9 an hour. And so makeup was paying me $20, and I was like, man, do I go for $9 an hour? And like, I'm getting paid $20 an hour right now, right? Like, and so that's when you have to really think about like money or passion or like what you can really pull out. So I was like, you know what? I'm going for $9 an hour. I went to school for this. I'm going to make that money up, right? So I ended up trying to get rid of my makeup job. They wouldn't let me go. So, she's like, I'll work around your schedule. You have to stay on. So I ended up keeping that still.
Mm-hmm.
And then they worked around my entire schedule. So I got both, So sometimes when you stand for yourself, people will adjust to you.
Yeah.
And so I ended up in 6 months, I got a raise from $9 to $15. In 1 year, I ended up leading the entire design room of 50 people. I had by that time I was turning 19. I'm managing an entire team of 50 pattern makers, sewers. I had 6 production pattern makers, 3 first sewers, development sewers, and then a whole pattern making team, a whole design team. I was in charge of the entire scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 19 years old, right?
That's crazy. So how did you, I think about myself at 19, and I did not have my shit together, quite frankly. I was just in college, at Harvard, and honestly, what was that? That must have been sophomore year. I think I was trying to. At Harvard, they have this thing called finals club, where you're trying to you get punched to which means it's almost like our Harvard's equivalent of fraternities and sororities, and you're trying to get into them, but I was just I was doing that, partying, and then also getting murdered by, I think, physics and some other engineering courses that I was taking. But I didn't have this confidence that seems like you had at such a young age. And so have you always been that confident, or you're talking about taking a stand for what you want? Have you always been like that? Have you always known that? Did that come naturally to you? Hey, did you hear me?
It skipped out.
Okay, yeah. No, you're good. So I was just saying it just seemed like you really had it all figured out really early on, where you're talking about, hey, take a stand for what you want and what you believe in. You're managing teams of 50 people, I imagine, adults who are older than you, for this company. Have you always been that way? And if so, what really helped you become so confident at such a young age? Or if not, what empowered you to be able to do the things that you did at that early stage of your life?
It's funny. I wouldn't even call it confidence you're talking about. I was I think at that time, I think for many years, until the time I met you,
yeah,
everybody else's confidence is what I wrote off of their confidence in me.
Say more.
Right.
Yeah.
So like I said, at a very young age, my parents picked me out of all my siblings to really work with them, and and run the business, and so I was kind of always the one that was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the makeup artistry, I didn't have any. I was 16, 17, and this woman was here, I'm going to give you, $20 an hour. What kid was making $20 an hour? So there was always these really amazing opportunities and people who really believed in me. But really, I was just as insecure as every kid is insecure, and I couldn't really figure out why people were so confident. I couldn't believe I'm leading the team of 50 people, but people always saw more in me than I could see in myself.
That resonates so much. Yeah.
And so I took it on, but I still didn't believe that I deserved it. I didn't. Many times I didn't believe that. I knew deep down inside that I'm capable. I knew I could pull it out. There was that for sure in me.
Mm-hmm.
But but I wouldn't relate that to being confident.
Mm.
You know, like I had this uncanny ability of managing and structuring. I'm very visionary that way, but I couldn't identify. Like now I'm older, I can see, oh, that like, yeah, that was, you know, like on a peripheral view going back, I'm like, oh, I was already, you know, in high school, I ran the classroom.
What do you mean?
The fashion class. I had this fashion class, right?
Yeah.
And we had to set up a quote unquote fashion show in the local mall. My teacher, she was so funny. She was Lord and Taylor's like model. She was a campaign model, and ended up being a teacher, or you know. And so she looked like Cruella de Vil.
Mm-hmm.
literally looked like Cruella de Vil. Okay. And so like her eyelashes would be falling off and stuff. She was a mess. She's so funny. And so she would be like, okay, Helen, just tell them what to do. Just tell them what to do, you know? And I'm like, okay, I guess everyone stand up and then let's like get ready. It's like, I don't even know what I'm talking about, you know, like I'm a student lady, like, and so I would be in these roles like that, you know, like since I was little, like they would just like hand it to me. And so that's like the same thing with the design team. They're like, Helen's gonna manage the team, and everyone's like, Helen is 18 years old, like 19 years old. Like, what are you talking about? She's leading the team. But I never missed it. I never missed the delivery. I never, like, you know, I just have this also very like sensible working spirit, and like, and by the end of it, I won the team over. Like they were all, I mean, look, they did not give it to me easy. Like they challenged me, you know, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like you need to learn, go find the pattern. So they didn't baby me. They made me learn. Wow. And I was willing to learn. And so I wasn't necessarily managing them, except I was really coordinating with them and then partnering with them. And so I think I learned how to partner with people at a very young age, because I was always the youngest in these settings, coming in to do these kind of big things. And so, you know, with these people that were 50, like 40, I mean, I was half their age, and they've had decades. And then I just absorbed, I just like learned all these skills and learned about like, you know, the real quality. What am I really looking for? And so I really became an expert through their eyes. And so I think it was less about me being like, yeah, I'm this, da, 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 and then more about, okay, how do I need to mold myself like to get this whole thing working. And then how do I work with you so you can hear me, you know? And so I think by the time you and I met, which we met in Landmark, like Landmark gave me the language. It was called communication, but I was doing communications already when I was really young. I just didn't identify what that talent I had, what that skill I had. And I didn't have the confidence. I mean, you remember, I got up on stage like totally a broken person, and like really like, you know, just shattered as a person. And so I think, you know, everybody goes through evolutions, and now it's funny, through quarantine, you know, I raised a ton of butterflies, and I see, you know, there's stages of your metamorphosis. There's phases of your life that you could never imagine you're here and then you're over there. Like, you know, as a caterpillar, they're born and they're grounded. They're eating off of a plant. They don't do anything but eat all day and avoid getting eaten. You know, like that's their 24-hour mindset, right? And so when you think about being a child or being younger, like you're just trying to survive is the best thing, right? And then you go into this cocooning, which is what they do. They transform, they're in this transformation. And I think my transformation really happened in a later part of my life where a lot of people maybe transform at a younger age, you know, but I have been working like an adult. You know, by the time I was 25, I had already like launched runways and, you know, was managing, directing entire teams. Like I had a full on career by that time. I was already in the business for 8 years. Like,
Yeah.
you know, so it's like I didn't have time for me time, like me to develop my confidence in the way you're describing it. I think I was in a sense thrown in these positions and expected to like swim, right? And because I'm such an agile learner, I can swim. You know, I will figure out how to swim in these very challenging roles. And I did, you know, but it was not, you know, like agony of like not feeling good enough, you know, and then, but then, you know, once you do it, it's just like anything, the 10,000 hour rule. You do it, and you just start perfecting what you're doing, and you become, you know, this expert. I became this designer, and you know, and really understood the business of fashion.
Yeah.
And so much so I ended up consulting many brands, you know, and helping many brands turn their businesses.
Man, there's so much
I think it
there.
really, you know, and then it was like in the yeah, and in
Go
the
ahead.
development, like yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, I think when you're reaching confidence, I think it's when you don't give a fuck whether or not you stop appeasing people and you start tuning into your center of like what you need to be for this world, not because of what anyone tells you that you should be or what you should be doing. It's less about doing, it's more about being, you know. It's being present, being of service, you know, really being in tune with what's happening around you, with the people you actually really care about. So my actions, I would say my confidence now has really arisen to fully being in tune with who I am. And so everybody who is very close to me, you know, when I love you, you know, and you know that I'm present. You know that, like, if you picked up a call, if you called me, I pick up the phone. Like, you know, that is full presence and confidence that I can still achieve everything, and you're not part of my schedule. Like your you know, your relationship matters to me enough that I will stop everything and I will still accomplish what I need to accomplish.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning more of like that confidence, where I had a very kind conversation, you know, but my intentions are very like much stronger now. You know, before it was like, you know, just kind of tossing it into the wind, right? You're like throwing shit in the air, hoping it sticks, you know, and like now it's like, oh no, I know that's gonna happen when I say this is gonna happen. Like those things happen because my attention and my energy goes there.
Yeah.
And so I'm less about like, oh, you know, running around doing things. You know, it's more like I hone in and I'm like, okay, that's gonna happen. We're gonna do this, and my actions follow those things. Like, and I don't go FOMO. You know.
So it sounds like because you know what you're like so aligned, you're present to like what your truth is and like what it is that you're like, what actually matters to you. When you say, okay, this is what matters, this is what I'm putting my energy to, you just have this confidence now, this natural confidence, because that's what your attention and your focus is on that, right?
Yeah, and no matter what happens, I'm seeing what this is what I'm noticing now, right?
Yeah.
No matter what's thrown at me, literally, like literally, no matter what's thrown at me, what I have set out, like I will make that happen. So
Yeah.
I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, my mother's been sick. Why I moved to California, and all of a sudden Monday morning she's not feeling well. Like, we had to rush her to the hospital, and I'm in the middle of construction. I have a photo shoot that's scheduled for collaboration, and so it's like, I cannot miss that mark.
Mm.
That's a very big business thing for me. And then my girlfriend, who has ovarian cancer, is going into surgery like the following week. And I had already committed to cooking her food for 2 weeks
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that she's like taken care of. Meanwhile, all kinds of stuff thrown at me. My other friend gets cancer, and she's starting chemo. My other friend's going through a hurricane in like El Salvador. Like I'm connected to my world that I live in around the world. So I'm checking in with that person, making sure that they're good, that they have everything they need.
Mm-hmm.
My other friend who's gone through COVID, all of her patients died. She's having nightmares of people screaming for their lives in the middle of the night. So I'm checking on her, making sure that the construction's going on, making sure my mom stays alive, working with all the doctors, learning all the language of doctor speak so I can communicate thoroughly with everyone. But because I've created a team in all these kind of pods, I don't necessarily have to do all the work.
Mm.
I coordinate and I partner with everybody to work alongside with me to accomplish and achieve everything. So I made the photo shoot date happen. I renovated. As you see, I'm sitting in the renovation. My mom is back home, safe. We just met with the doctor yesterday. She's doing great. I gave the hospital nurses and doctors a thank you. They were the first to receive this collaboration product that I'm launching. They were so excited. My girlfriend who has ovarian cancer cooked all her food on time, made her all the products I needed to give her, sent her items ahead of time, raised $500 through my friends to all pitch in so we could buy her everything she needs to get through her healing process, ordered everything, sent it all to her. Like, like I just cut through the bullshit and focus in, and still things were being thrown at me. Like, this renovation was not easy to finish, but at the same time, I got a brand new cabinet, like stools for my table,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's like everything happened as it should.
Yeah.
And like there's this focusedness
Mm.
now.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
And I'm still shipping. I'm still shipping all my customers. Like I'm blending, like I'm getting ready to ship 400 units, and it all comes through here.
Yeah.
So all that's like all going on simultaneously, you know.
And so so you obviously, so you went from, there's just so much, from, okay, makeup artistry to working in fashion and to eventually now you're in this wellness product business that you've started, um and and I feel like this business has really it's been like an expression of, like, it's like in alignment with like who you are. And I remember when you
Yeah.
decided to like really go all in with that. Um, but yeah, it's so like you're doing that, and that's like really important to you, like this business. But then, like your relationships, like that sounds like that's another thing that's really important to you. Living in integrity with yourself, that's like
Mm-hmm.
something that's like really important to you. There's
Yeah.
so many different things that matter to you that you're staying focused on. It's like it's almost like you're juggling, or I don't know if it feels like that to you, but it's like you're juggling all of these different things, and you're like trying to stay like laser focused on all of these different things. Meanwhile, things are being thrown at you, all of this adversity, all of this just like the world is not always working with you. How do you stay focused on all of these things simultaneously? And like, yeah, I'm just like, I'm just really curious because I imagine there are a lot of people who are going through a lot of different things, and they have a lot of stuff that they want, but to like keep that all together and still be healthy and like sane, it's kind of a hard thing to do.
The most important thing I could tell you is do the things you love and literally not work a day in your life. Do what you love. Be with the people you love. Spend time with the people that you love. And all of it, no matter what happens, only gets sweeter. Like even when I was going to the hospital, and also like which is why I have my brand, is I really believe in rituals. I really believe that we got to train ourselves to be in center, right? And so all of this is my training. All of this is just showing me that the resiliency can be accomplished because I've been steady. Like I've kept myself on a steady pace. I refuse drama. I refuse gossip. I refuse wasting my time. Time is so precious. Like your moments are so precious, and what are you spending it on? So you got to take a really good evaluation on where do you spend your money. Time is worth the most money because you will never get it back. Once you spend it in that day, it's over. And you don't know how much of it you have, right? So like, I'm so grateful for like this conversation, to participate with like your project, to like be of service to you, to like do this with you, no matter how tired I feel. I don't feel tired because I feel invigorated that I get 1 hour solitude time with you. That's what I focus on. Like I focus on like the what does it mean to me, like being with my mom, like taking her to the emergency. I was like, I'm not going to focus on we're going to the emergency. I turned on my meditation music. I chilled her out. It chilled me out. We didn't need to be like, screaming. I just honed in. And that was in my practice, right? Like, and I was like, I got to bring my practice to living life right now because I want to wig out, like, and construction started that day. So I'm leaving all these guys at my house with all this merchandise that I was just telling you. And it's like, I got to just trust the universe, and let go of everything. And so my goal in that day was to keep her, like, her journey. I knew the music would help her to start journeying, in reflective mode, fortune cookie on fire with all this wisdom, because she had solitude time. But I set her up for that. I intentionally set her up. I did aromatherapy on her. We got in the hospital. And I was like, nope, I'm going to the back. They kept telling me, ma'am, you're not going to be able to go to the back because COVID. I was like, oh no, I'm going to the back. And so I just kind of, talked to them and then worked my way. I was back there with her the whole day. So then what I did was I was very directive. I'm thinking, okay, I need socks. Her feet are going to be cold. We're going to put socks on her. I got socks because, hospitals have things. I got a hot warm blanket. I put a hot warm blanket on her. And then I brought our home blanket. Mm-hmm. And I put our home blanket to give her home, right? Mm-hmm. And then I turned the lights off. And they had music. I asked them if they have music because they have TV. I don't want her listening to all that bullshit. I turned on music that's like high hymns and like just beautiful, like soft music. We listened to that all day. She was like in a trance. I did aromatherapy on her. I put oil on her mask so she didn't feel like she was in a mask. And so then I'm in practice. I'm doing what my brand is all about, staying in the ritual, and so then what it does is it furthers my understanding and my knowing and my knowledge. So when it gets to like having to pump out 900 units or all these crazy things that I'm doing, like I know that it works because I've been in flow in these very intense situations, or my girlfriend who went into surgery, who, had her inhaler with her, and it's like she had a piece of me with her, and so like whatever it is that you love and what makes you tick in this world, like that's what I would encourage you to really stick to, and do less of what makes you work, do less of what makes you have to do less of like having to sit through a conversation that you're not interested in to feel cool, and do more of being with people that invigorate you, that fill your cup up, that make you inspired, that ignite you, do more of that. And then stop the nonsense of being on trend.
Yeah.
Because I can care less now. Like I really take care less. But, what I see is like when I was in New York City, I was already bucking the system. Like I was on my own beat. I was doing my own thing. And I was more judging myself. So I now stopped judging myself. Because that's all such a waste of time, Mm-hmm. So spend more time being present with people and less up here. Like when you're sitting up here, it's fucking dangerous,
Yeah.
So my products are really about dropping you into your body so you can feel yourself, be present, awake, like awaken your sensories.
Can you say so maybe like share like what, like maybe one or two or like whatever the main products that you have, and what do you mean by dropping into your body, and like what does that mean? Like how does dropping into your body help you be present?
That's a good question. So when you smell essential oils using your olfactory system, you're basically like awakening your brain, because what we know about the olfactory system in science in general is that when you inhale, it drops information into the center of the limbic part of your brain. That's the neocortex, the thalamus, and the amygdala. There's something called olfactory tract that connects the smell sensory to that part of the brain, right? So, when you think about smell in general, think about a home cooked meal. Like, doesn't that drop you somewhere? Like, oh, you're like, oh, that's mama,
Mama's chicken.
Mama's chicken. Or when you walk through the doors of Thanksgiving, you're like, oh, this is family, or like you smell a certain crisp breeze, you're like, that's New York fall time, we are here, And so like when that's dropping into your body like that, you're being notified. So in the products that I use, is I have essential oils. And so there's Revive is a palm shower and steam inhalation. You drop 2 drops in your palm. You can rub your palm together and then you huff it through your nose, exhale. And like literally you'll feel your whole body awaken and aliven when you smell it, and a lot of people get visceral reactions to it because it has like Japanese peppermint, which is always tingly and cooling inside, and so, when you're using any of my inhalers really help to boost your mood. Yeah.
This is mine. I use this all the time.
And it really kind of calms and eases your body. It really keeps you alert and awakened, And so like, that's just like a constant practice. That's just reminding you that I am here. When you do the inhale, you're like, I am here. I'm present right now, right? And so in these very high, intense situations, what I'm saying is that you can still like get yourself to be here, ground your body, and that way you're not like, like this is happening. And you're like floating everywhere with a chicken with its head cut off is the term, right? Isn't that term so obvious?
Yeah.
Like that's being not connected to your body. So my practice is really about being connected to what you're feeling, what is happening, because your body will tell you, right? Your gut is like, oh God, that didn't feel good. Like there's something wrong there. This person walked in, I didn't feel great about that. Like in that interaction, I think he's lying to me. Like all those, I think most of the time your intuition is on point, So you got to really trust and start learning those intuitions. Or you're like, oh God, that person like fills my heart with so much love. Like I can't take it, And so like so now it's like, I feel those things. I scan my body, and then I want less of the like, feeling. And the people that like give me breath, I'm like more. And then when that person's down, I want to give you breath. So I like choose to be present when you can't be present for yourself. So like my girlfriend who was going through surgery, I'm like, no, I'm choosing you. She was like, Hellen, you have so much stuff going on. Like your mom just went into surgery. Like, I can't put that pressure on you. I was like, you're not putting pressure on me. It's not pressure. For me, it's pleasure. Like, I am grateful to be able to do this for you. Yeah, did I have to stay up till 10 o'clock cooking? Sure. But to see her on the bed, healthy, and that she was so full in heart, and that she's taken care of. And the bigger picture is she's going through what her mom just died this year. Her mom had ovarian cancer. And then she herself has ovarian cancer. Like they're suspecting, so she had to go in and take out all her ovaries, which means she cannot have children. The least I can do is stay up and make you a meal. So that tells you like our expectations have gotten to a point where we don't feel that we don't want to trouble people. And I think that language we have to rework and allow to be loved, allow people to show up. Sorry, that's my dog.
Lucas.
Allow people to show up and receive that, you know. And the more you allow those things, you will see the most beautiful people come alive in your life.
Oh, man. Wow. Yeah. You know, everything you said just really resonates with me. I think that the trusting your intuition, that gut feeling, because sometimes the gut and like the heart and your body is saying one thing, but your mind is saying another thing. It's like, oh, like, but I have all this work to do and all this. It's like, but no, like, at least in this example, it's like, no, like it gives me pleasure to be here for that person. Like that's bigger than me losing an hour of sleep or something, or a couple hours, whatever it is. And it's like another way of thinking and being, and I feel like you've really mastered that, or you're mastering being very intentional about what you put your energy into, what you put your focus into, because those things give you pleasure. And it's kind of interesting, like, because would you say that's selfish?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I think typically, and I've been like kind of personally starting to do work around this, where it's okay to be a little selfish, because when you're a little selfish, actually you'll end up being more selfless. That's where you're able to show up for other people and like give, because it feels good to give. It feels good
it feels great to give.
No.
But I think selfishness is tricky, right?
Yeah, because the word is kind of like
well, I think selfishness can be tricky because some people use it as a weapon. They're like, right now, I think wellness has become a little tricky because people are like, oh, well, my wellness is to cut you off. Like, okay, like, I don't know about that, right? Like, how is that transformed? Like, how is that really cutting one off? Like, what does that really mean? Is it that you have to preserve your energy from that person? Like, so I think it's being more intentional and more aware of why you're doing what you're doing. And yeah, I think our life we move through quite selfishly.
Yeah.
Everybody, Lucas. And so, but I think, what's important is really being in alignment, being in purpose, understanding what your purpose is, understanding who you are, what you bring to the world, because each person is valuable. I'm not anything special from you to your listener to anybody. I'm not, all I am doing is claiming my time. And I'm charging your friends, your people that are listening to claim their time in a way to be of service to everybody else and absolutely of service to yourself. Because if you, like, someone was like, oh my God, you're doing all this stuff. Like, what about you, Helen? Honestly, like, when Helen shuts down, like, I literally kind of hone in and like, I'm in my home. I've created my space, partially why I've created the studio in the home, because my time is limited. I have to be close by to my mother. It's costed me financially to do this. It's costed me not to be in the city, like all kinds of stuff. But at the end of the day, when you die, do you say that? Oh, she moved home, but she lost a lot of money from doing that. Like, no, they're going to talk about who you were, the memories that they had with you, like what you brought to their life, what you cooked them, what was the funny, hilarious things that happened. Like, that's what people remember you. So it's like, so when you're thinking about how are you living and when you're choosing these things, you're not choosing it for the obituary, but you're choosing it for like how you want, that interaction to be. And when interactions don't work in the way of your favor, and I think we had talked about our intention of this conversation, like how I've been able to get up and recreate my interaction is because I know everyone's on a journey. My ex-husband and I are friends now. He's remarried to a man, Doug. We're like a recreative family, They like text me all the time. They worry about my mother, like they're great friends of mine. Why? Because like that has to, like every bridge I've blown up, I've rebuilt a new bridge. It didn't look like the bridge that it used to be, right? It's a new bridge, but so there's no place that I can't travel in the world within myself or with other people, And so I'm always willing to have a conversation with a broken friendship. I'm always willing to forgive someone as I've forgiven myself for bad choices, And I think that actually is what resiliency is built off of.
Wow. Thank you so much, Hellen. Before I ask you the last question, I just want to say that I really am inspired by you. I remember meeting you many years ago when you were just down. Like, I think this was like after you had like gotten your divorce and
what was your first impression? Man,
I was like, she's a hot mess. She cried. You were crying.
Yeah, she cries a lot.
Yeah, but like I'm honored and privileged to have been able to see your transformation time and time again, and the ability to just like be unstoppable in the face of any adversity that comes your way, and your willingness to live your truth and to be aligned in integrity with yourself. Thank you so much for our friendship and for valuing me, and I value you, obviously, and I know that everybody that's listening will get so much from this as well. So thank you, Hellen. The last question for you is, what do you believe the new norm should be in the world?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that the new norm is, the old norm was never normal. And the new norm is actually what's real. It's really about slowing down. If you think about what's actually really happening, as much as people are complaining, like, oh, I got to homeschool, and oh, oh, I have to stay home. Like, you have a home to stay in. We're in a first world nation. You have a beautiful home. You could create it beautiful. This was not a beautiful home when I came home to it. I created it. When? Through COVID. So I really think that the new norm is really spent, like what we've been talking about this whole time. Where are you putting your time? Like I get to do yoga in my backyard, like guided meditation with a friend, like I get to like have breakfast with my mother and then start working my day. Like I couldn't even imagine life being better, for where it's at right now. And so I think for everybody, it's appreciating all the things that you have in front of you. Even when I was really doubted out, I thought, man, I'm so grateful. Like gratitude is something you can't be grateful and be in fear at the same time. When you're grateful, you keep your heart in a space that keeps you looking forward, like it helps you to see the resiliency within yourself, even when you don't feel like you have it in you. So I think right now with everyone going through a lot, everyone's going through a lot of different things. So as we've been talking, there's COVID, there's social unrest going on, there's regular health issues that people are facing, I think it's just really challenging humanity to be human again. We become really unhuman. Everything's become very automated, very distant. You don't talk to people, you text them, you fire people on email. I don't really think that that's actually the way things should work. People don't know how to work out relationships. They just swipe to the right, instead of like those awkward moments of like, oh, getting rejected, like, I think those are all opportunities, and that are being missed, communication being missed, like having tough conversations. Like, I have a friend who lost my computer who was like, oh, I have to have a conversation with you, but I can't do it right now. And I'm like, we have 10 minutes. You can tell me whatever you need to tell me, But it's such a dramatic thing. Like, and it's like, it doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to, like, I just need to know what's happening so then we can figure out what to do. And so I think, that's the new norm to me, is really relearning conversations, really being present with everybody, because as you see COVID, you could get it and that person's gone. Like, I watched on Good Morning America, this woman who lost her entire family, and she's in Thanksgiving alone. Like, literally, she lost 6 family members. And that just breaks my heart for her, like, and it's like, the part of why I was talking about understanding and knowing what's around in your environment, in your community, is like, right now, what you can do is pick up the phone and check on your friends, and not like, hey, yo, what's happening? What's the next da da da? But like, how are you really? What is it that you need? Is there anything I can do? And just talk about life. Like, a lot of people are moving because they can't afford it, because they lost their job. Can you just be there as a friend? I mean, what was amazing and the kindness that I experienced in this time was my mom, because everybody was the pandemic and people were like buying up everything, she needs bleach to keep sanitary her space, because if she gets one bacteria in her process of her dialysis every night, she can get septic, which is like, she'll basically have to go into hemodialysis, which is very painful and very difficult, because the bacteria can fluster and like build in your system really quickly. So I had asked this, like, I had a neighborhood app, and I said, oh, I just need to get bleach, because my mom, everybody's bought the bleach out. And then the other neighbor read it. So these are strangers right now. And she's like, I'll set the bleach out on my porch for you to come by and pick it up. She had the whole gift and caboodle. Okay. Then I posted on Facebook, and I was like, I can't believe this woman set out this whole gift package for my mother and a card, and thanked me for being a daughter reaching out, right? So I posted that, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe she like gave us bleach. I don't know this one. I never met her. And I, of course, left a package of my products and thanked her. And then a friend responded and said, I have bleach. I'm going to drive it by. I haven't spoken to her for 20 years. She came by. I haven't seen her for 20 years, and dropped off bleach for my mom. And then another friend read the post and was like, I'm going to mail you bleach. I live in Vegas. We're getting bleach back. I'm going to mail you 2 bottles of bleach. My other girlfriend shows up at my house to have lunch in the backyard, brings a bottle of bleach. And then all of a sudden we have like tons of bleach. And it's so funny because it's like kind of a whatever item that we always take for granted, you know, and that isn't that the same story as essential workers we've taken for granted. And they're the ones who pulled us through this pandemic. So I think to me, the new norm is don't take things for granted. Don't take these people for granted. Don't take the little things for granted, you know, and which is why it's so important in this time to learn and figure out what your ritual is. Yeah. What gets you to center? What do you need to chill the fuck out when you want to hit the roof? You know, what causes you to get out of your body? Figure out how to stay in your body. Is it a meditation that you need? Is it a yoga practice? You need to go on a walk. Is it that coffee? Every morning I have my tea. That's a ritual. What are the things that like help you to know I'm going to really do everything to stay centered? And as things get thrown at you, yeah, you can use my inhaler, calm your brain down, calm you down, you know, like do whatever it takes to stay like here, stay in your center. So for me, that's the new norm, is not going, but really like going, because you know I'm going, but I'm also ready to be interrupted.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Whew, this was amazing. Can you hear me? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you. This was amazing, Hellen. I really enjoyed this conversation, and yeah, I mean, I'll link it up and so that people can like follow you and check out some of your products. Thank you for just sharing so vulnerably and openly with all of us your story, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Hey there. I hope you really enjoyed today's podcast episode. As you know, at New Norm Club, we really believe in the Ubuntu philosophy, which basically means I am because we are. You know, rising tide raises all ships. And so this podcast is not just a podcast, it's also a community. So feel free to go to the Facebook group and join and connect with other like-minded people. Share what your biggest takeaways were from this episode. Also, do that in your personal social media so that we can get more people into this family, so that we can start to redefine the world together and support each other and empower each other and inspire each other to be our best selves. And don't forget to tag at New Norm Club and at Glyvolner, that's me, Glyvolner, on any of your social platforms. And also follow on your preferred podcasting platform, Spotify, etc., YouTube, or you know the drill. So have an amazing rest of your day, and see you on the next episode.